Order at 7:01 p.m. And we'll just do a roll call here. It looks like we have myself, Bruce Joy,
Here.
Mike Fowler, June Williams,
Here.
Jeff Bunn,
Here.
James Seeley,
I'm here.
Jessica Goida.
Present.
And is there anybody else? I think that's everybody. We did have a couple delegations, but will they come on later, I guess? Jeff?
Through your chair, yes, they'll come through. We'll just get through our calling meeting to order, roll call, opening remarks, all the way up until the business arising from the minutes. Then we'll jump into delegations.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So we'll just start opening remarks here. We have the electronic participation protocol. Please note the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. Okay, is everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 4, confirmation of the agenda. Is there any amendments to the agenda? If not, is there anything?
Nope, not for me.
No.
Okay. Jeff, would you like to read the resolution?
Absolutely. That the minutes of the May 17th, 2022 meeting be adopted as printed.
Okay.
I think, sorry, go ahead.
We were just, sorry, Jessica.
Are we doing approval of minutes? Sorry, I thought we were doing.
This was the
confirmation of agenda.
confirmation of the agenda.
I am so sorry. Did I read out the wrong one? Yes, I did.
That's okay.
I'm sorry that the agenda dated September 20th, 2022 be adopted as circulated.
And we need a mover.
I'll move.
I'll
June
second.
Williams. And Bruce Joy seconded, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest before we move forward?
Not from here.
Nope.
No. Okay, we'll move forward then. Number 6, approval of minutes.
All right.
Everybody's got the minutes from the last meeting from May 17th. Is
Yeah.
there any errors, omissions, or anything we'd like to discuss before we make a motion to approve the minutes?
No, all good here.
Okay. Could
Good
I
for
get,
my point.
you're all good, Bruce?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, Jeff, would you like to read the resolution? Then we'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please.
Of course, that the minutes of the May 17th, 2022 meeting be adopted as circulated.
We need a mover, please. James?
Oh.
Jessica second, and all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Carried. Okay. Item 7, business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes?
Not here.
No. Okay.
Not for me.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to 8 then. I guess we're already at delegations here. There is a delegation for tonight. A resolution to receive the delegation. Jeff, could you read that resolution, please?
Absolutely. So that the delegation prepared by Judith, Barb, and Mary regarding concerns related to the suitability of Fox Run Drive Park for proposed Frisbee golf course be approved.
And could I ask for a mover on the delegation, please?
I will.
Jessica, seconded by
I'll second it.
Bruce, all in favor? Carried. All right. Consent agenda.
Sorry,
Oh.
through you, Mr. Chair. We'll just move over at this point, Judith, who will be speaking on behalf of the delegation.
Okay.
And the committee will hear that delegate. So just give me one moment and we'll move Judith to be a panelist.
Okay, great.
Jeff, did they present any paperwork ahead of time, or is this just a verbal proposal at this time?
There'll be a verbal that's been that is on the agenda, and we have received, I believe, a written copy of the presentation this
Mhm.
afternoon.
Okay, I don't have a copy, right?
No, that has not been circulated.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Great. So, Mr. Chair, it looks like we have Judith moved over as a panelist.
Hi, Judith. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Thanks, Vince. I'm here with Mary Christides and Barb Redmond as my backup group here. We've come to speak to the committee with respect to the proposal that was tabled at the council meeting of the township on September the 7th, where it was suggested that the existing park on Fox Run Drive might be suitable as a place to implement a disc golf course. And our suggestion to you at the outset, and I will go through the rationale as to why, is that this is a purpose that is, or a usage that is totally incompatible with the purpose and design of the park as it presently stands. I don't know if members of the Recreation Committee are aware, but back in 2018, the township was looking to either divest itself of the park or alternatively to allow the park to go into a natural state. And in response to that, the community, the Fox Run neighborhood community, put together a survey signed by the majority of the community's homeowners, and it was delivered to council. And it expressed the will of the homeowners at that time that the park remain as a park. And ultimately, in July of 2019, the township did sponsor an open house for the community at large, and a concept plan for an accessible walking trail was promulgated at that time by the township. And ultimately, in response to the positive feedback received with respect to the concept, and in response to the submissions of the homeowners that surround or in the subdivision that surrounds the park, the township did engage contractors to enhance the park, to repair the drainage problems that were in the park, to incorporate signs, benches, and a walking trail that is in full conformity with AODA requirements. And so that park has been used by residents and guests to it. There are pathways going into the park at two ends of the park presently. So that I don't know how much of a background people have on the Recreation Committee, how much you know about disc golf courses. They are starting to grow in popularity. We are seeing them. They started out in California predominantly and have sort of moved up across North America. And disc golf courses are much like golf courses. They start from a tee area and they end at a target. There's a fairway, and the targets are generally elevated metal baskets. And people throw discs from the tee down the fairway, ultimately trying to putt into the elevated basket. And typically there are trees and shrubs and terrain changes that afford the players the opportunity to wind their way around obstacles through the course. They can be disc golf courses can be 9-hole courses, 18-hole courses, 27-hole course variants, just like you would see on a golf course. At a minimum, you need 5 acres of wooded and open terrain, incorporating a variety of topographical changes in the land for a basic 9-hole course. And the Fox Run Drive Park, as it presently sits, covers a maximum area of approximately 5 acres of flat terrain and is surrounded on all sides by abutting homes and yards. What you have to also be aware of is that the discs that are used in disc golf are not just simple plastic frisbees. They are of varying weights, just like golf clubs are of varying weights, and they are made of hardened plastic with dense, narrow edges, and they are designed to spin over 70 miles per hour. And so in the results, there are significant issues relating to safety and the environment in the result. So I spent a lot of time over the past few days looking at literature on disc golf park design. And the literature specifically acknowledges the need for exclusivity when a disc golf park is being established. The literature clearly stipulates that parks that have picnic benches or play areas or grassy areas where people gather should be avoided and should be void of any disc flights. If courses are contemplated where there are potentially walkers or cyclists moving along, any design of a course has to take into account the fact that these discs can be misplayed, they may go offline, and there may be situations where people within the park are obviously not visible to one another. So when we look at an example of a park, a disc golf course within a public park, we can turn specifically to Guelph's Riverside Park as an example. And the Riverside Park has, the city of Guelph has set aside the southeast section of Riverside Park, where it is completely unto itself. And yet people who are going to the park who want to play disc golf can do so with amenities such as washrooms and that type of thing, and parking available to them. The concerns with respect to the environment are that we see tree damage as being a critical concern. So these discs will hit trees, take off lower limbs and that type of thing. Grass compaction is another concern. The grass will be, because of the running on it and that type of thing, you wind up with grass compaction going down to bare dirt along the paths, at the tees, at the baskets. And ultimately those can lead to erosion problems with heavy usage. There's also a concern that is often cited in the literature with respect to the impact of these discs that are going at 70 miles an hour and above to bird life and the fact of them being hit. So when we look at the literature, it also speaks to bushwhacking. That's the term that's used. Because the discs, as I say, the combination of wind and natural obstacles and that type of thing, combined with players' levels of ability to play, people will try to fly their discs over bushes, around trees, to arrive at a basket with fewer shots. And in the result, you've got limbs and leaves from from trees being stripped. Adjoining properties are potentially being entered upon by players who are looking for discs that have landed in properties. And over time, if the courses aren't properly maintained, they will be beaten down to bare dirt. So in essence, were Fox Run Drive Park to become a home to a disc golf course, the entirety of the barely 5-acre park would be dedicated to a single sport and would preclude anyone else from using it. We have undertaken a very in-depth survey of the neighborhood. And we have 60 homes in the neighborhood. We did an electronic survey, and of the 60 homes in the neighborhood, 56 of the 60 homes surveyed were potential respondents. 3 homes are vacant. 1 is a vacant or for sale, and 1 home wasn't surveyed because the family has family illness. Of the 56 potential respondents to our survey, we had 51 households participate. So that is a 91.7 response rate, 91.7% response rate. What we did in the survey is we afforded people the opportunity to indicate their choices for what they would like to see as additions to the existing Fox Run Park. We asked a question with respect to the introduction of disc golf to the park, and we asked for people's concerns. So in terms of suggested additions to the park, 78% of the respondents, I will give you the top 4, 78% of the respondents indicated that they would like to see a children's structure with seating area. 67.8 indicated they would like to see a garden area with benches. 59.3% indicated they would like to see large swing sets for slightly older children. And 50.8% indicated that they would like to see games tables that would be for things like chess, permanent games tables for things like chess and checkers, etc. In response to the question specifically on introducing a disc golf course to Fox Run Park, the community overwhelmingly, so we've got 51 households participating, the community overwhelmingly indicated it did not want such an installation. 85% were opposed. The concerns that were raised by the community were parking. 80% of the respondents indicated that. 73.3% were concerned about property damage. Trespassing was at 66.7%. Safety was at 60%. And a preference for other activities was at 56.7%. The Puslinch Optimus Recreation Center is exactly 2 kilometers from the proposed Fox Run Drive Park. It is already home to other community sports activities and serves as the central hub for the township's recreational activities. The requisite infrastructure is there to support participants in disc golf, parking, washroom facilities, lighting, and so forth. And the requisite landmass and configuration most appropriate to the sport is there as well. If you will recall, going back to as far as 2012, the township purchased 10 acres of land immediately adjacent to the rear of the community center for future, I should say, recreational uses. Those lands have an open field in a wooded area running along the Mill Creek tributary. In as recently as July of this year, council approved plans to expand the community center to include a second parking lot, a gathering place, and meandering walkways. It would appear that as recently as July, disc golf was not even on council's radar at the time, and no notional consideration was given to the potential for installing golf in the open field and wooded area. That is the place where the disc golf should be going. The committee should also be aware of the fact that this July as well, Victoria Park Valley Golf Club, situated at 7660 Maltby Road East in Puslinch, opened a professionally designed 18-hole disc golf course on site for individual and league play. The course at the Victoria Park Valley Golf Club is a mere 2.9 kilometers from the Fox Run Park site now being proposed, and it is a mere 5.4 kilometers from the Puslinch Recreation Center. For all of those reasons, the residents of the Fox Run neighborhood are urging the committee to take heart to the results of the survey and the express wishes of the community, and set aside any thought of putting a disc golf course in the Fox Run Drive Park. Instead, we would ask that the committee consider some of the more suitable options that have been suggested by the residents in the survey, such as play structures, swing sets, games, tables, etc., to enhance the park and ensure that it can be used by the broadest number of community members. I'm open to any questions that the committee may want to ask.
Does anybody have any questions? James?
Yeah, Vince? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Bruce. Thank you for your presentation today. One of your comments, you made reference to the 10 acres at the back of PCC. That's already been developed into a soccer field that we're trying to bring online for the Pussler soccer folk. I just want to say that I feel that the PCC is kind of maxed out for activities, and it kind of ties into your comment earlier in your presentation that ideally it's to be located where there's a little bit less activity. So placing more Frisbee golf at the PCC, I think that's more of a challenging place due to everything else going on there. You know, and we're supportive at council of improving our parks, you know, as long as we plan for it appropriately. But the upgrades that you mentioned, you know, the child structure, I think a garden area with picnic and a swing set, that's pretty much exactly what we're doing in Borum. And council got a little bit of sticker shock when we put that out for design and tender. It's, you know, it's a $200,000, $250,000 price tag for that type of upgrade, where Frisbee golf is $6,000. So it's something that can be passive recreation for people at a very reasonable rate. But this is not cut into stone already. Council wants to have a formal survey from the groups up there, hear their concerns, and work through the process. And maybe there's a better place within the township to have a course. But you know, when you mentioned that they just put a professionally designed course at Vic East or whatever it was, that's even just telling me that there's a lot of desire out there for this type of recreational activity. And again, if we can find a good home for it in the township, it's at a quite reasonable cost. So at this time, I would just suggest that we're going to you know, take the direction or hand it to the rec committee to do you know, to engage the community formally and get those results back, and then get some recommendations from the rec committee. But I do want to ask staff, Mr. Fowler, if you're here, is there any prohibition currently that would prevent somebody from going into that park and throwing a Frisbee?
No, there currently is no prohibition. We don't have any bylaws that state that type of recreation cannot commence. Staff has also noticed that several private residents that do back onto Fox Run Park have their own, we'll say, portable Frisbee golf sets that they have set up to utilize. So at this moment, there's no obstacle to prevent a possible Frisbee golf course there.
Okay, so really what was proposed is just a modified version of what could already be happening in our parks, because anybody can take their dog down and throw a Frisbee. Okay, no, that's good to know. Full soccer field. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I didn't really have any questions for the delegate. I just wanted to make those statements, so thank you.
Thank you, James. And I think, Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very well put together. You mentioned that you put together a survey of the local residents. Did you expand the survey to Puss Lynch residents?
No, we were looking at it from the perspective of our neighborhood. We surround the park. If there is to be a survey of the Puss Lynch residents, I would suggest that is something that be done by the township as opposed to members of an individual neighborhood.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Judith, thank you, Bruce. There, I just had a question myself. What kind of parking facilities would you need, or do you have currently at that park?
There are
Is
no
there a-
parking facilities. There are no parking facilities. There is a walk, it's a walking path entrance on either side of the park.
Okay,
So you can,
30 or 40 feet.
I don't even know if it's 30 feet wide, the walking
No, I mean
entrance. No.
deep.
Oh, deep. Well, I don't know. But anyway, no, there is no parking at that park at all.
sure. Okay, and then I noticed, I think the park in Guelph Riverside has a setup right now. Has anybody visited it? Is it well used, or does anybody know? I've
I'm
heard
not-
about it. I've never
Yeah.
seen it.
I'm not a Frisbee player, so I honestly don't know. I know where it is. And as I say, it is off to one side, and Riverside Park is a huge park by
Mhm.
comparison. And Guelph is putting in another, they have another one at Eastview Park, which again is a huge park. There are large soccer fields, large parking areas, and that type of thing. My concern at the moment as to, in terms of the mayor's comments that people, anybody can go into a park and throw a Frisbee, and I understand that completely. But now would be happening in this case is that the township would in essence be establishing this as a pretty much potentially as a one-use park. And it would be precluding, because of the potential safety impacts and that type of thing, it would be precluding young kids from playing while Frisbee players were playing, because the township would now be sanctioning and endorsing a formalized use of the park. So I would strongly suggest as well that the township may want to look at sort of the potential liability there. That might be something.
Could I
Yeah.
add to that? I just wanted to also add to that, that when we achieved the funding for the walking trail for the park, part of the funding came from the AODA, and we do have members in the community that have disability. And the closest park to us is outside the distance required under the county guidelines for walking access to a park. And so this really is the only park that some members of the community have access to. And it would, if it became solely a disc golf course park, then it would really impact the residents that are disabled in the community.
Okay, well, thank you. Is there any more questions?
I just had a question. So Morriston Meadows, there's 2 ball diamonds there, and I don't think they're both being utilized. Could we not convert one of those ball diamonds into disc golf?
That might be more of an appropriate question for Mike Fowler. Do you know if there's any planned changes to that park?
I am aware that it is currently heavily utilized by Puslinch Minor Ball. I know the top diamond is, the bottom diamond, I'm pretty sure T-ball in the spring and early summer uses it. And then we also have the pavilion, which is open all spring, summer, fall for picnic rentals. So again, Morrison Meadows is really not the type of park. It doesn't offer the type of acreage that we could offer, maybe not more than two holes of disc golf.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. And I think Jessica, you had a question?
Thanks. I don't have really a question. I have a couple of comments. I first just did want to say thank you to the delegates for their presentation. It was very well done. You've obviously spent a lot of time researching it, and you're very passionate about it, I can tell. And so I appreciate that. And you do bring up some concerns that, we would definitely have to consider. But I think that those are considerations that we may also have to consider regardless of where we put it. So I'm not sure if we did want to go down the path, that those are things that could maybe be considered in the design of whatever course we may or may not go through. But I do think that they're all important things that we will have to look at
in determining whether we can do it, and if so, where we can do it. But I just wanted to just touch on a couple of points. You said that by putting in a disc golf course that would preclude any other uses, and I mean the thought of putting a disc golf course in it appeals to me, because I think it is a good way, an inexpensive way to utilize underused areas of the park, and it's something that can be done by all ages. But the intent is not, at least for me, would not be for that to be the sole purpose. So I wouldn't want to see other potential uses be precluded. That's not the intent. The other thing I wanted to mention is you talked about in the beginning of your presentation, you talked about the fear of the park being divested. I think that by putting something in like a disc golf course, it could allow some protection from that in the future. It's a way to enhance the park and potentially protect it from divesting for future councils down the road. All that being said, you've done a lot of work surveying the neighborhood. I think it's important that we engage the community as a whole. That's sort of the task that the rec committee has been put to, is engage with the community. And I think that we need to work towards that to make sure that we are addressing the concerns that you've brought up, and also engaging with the rest of the community as to what they want to see and where they may want to see it, and and go from there. So I just wanted to say thanks for all your hard work.
Okay, Bruce, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I unfortunately have not been out to that park. Maybe Judith, could you tell me, I guess, what percentage of the park use is used by the residents, and what percentage is used by people coming from the rest of the township? And what are they doing in the park? Just
The park presently, I mean, as it stands right now, it's basically sort of, there's now a winding walking path in the park from one side to the other. Do people come to it from the
Yes.
community
Yes.
as a lot? I
fact-
mean, I'm usually at work.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
In
Mary
fact,
can
on the
speak to that.
weekend, I was just speaking to somebody who lived at number 3 Deerview, and a gentleman parked his car in front of 3 Deerview and then went for a walk with his wife around the block, and they came from outside the area. So I'm finding that a lot of people that go in there are using it as a walking trail now that we've put the walking trail in. And I occasionally see cyclists and groups of cyclists come in. Another resident had recently had on the weekend on Saturday, they had the soccer team over, and the soccer team was jogging and doing laps around the block and through the park. And so there are people using it from across Puss Lynch. So it's not just used just by the residents for the walking trail. A lot of people like it because it's a quiet place to walk. It's a nice sort of loop. You can do a certain distance, and you can do it without having to deal with a lot of noise. And it's a good place to go to if you want some quiet. I do see a lot of community kids going in that just walk from their homes, or they bounce across the park to go to back and forth to each other's homes. And sometimes they'll sit on the benches, or they'll bring a ball with them, a soccer ball, kick that around, or they'll have softballs with gloves, and they'll toss softballs back and forth. So I have seen that as well. And I'm sure a lot of the neighbors that back onto it could tell you more about what they've seen.
okay, thank you.
Well, just before we finish up here, I just want to thank you, Judith. You guys have done a great job, and obviously it's not in stone, and we're going to debate this for some time. We definitely will. I think they'll be doing, the township will be setting up obviously some surveys and presentations before we do anything. And again, I just really good presentation. And if there's anything else that we need to do before we move on, I think, are we good to move on? We've got a busy agenda tonight. Is there anything else we need to say or do before? Any more questions?
Mr. Bunn?
Through you, Mr. Chair, what we can do now is we will just move Judith back to being a visitor of the meeting, and we'll introduce the item as a consent item. There is a resolution, and we will be looking for some feedback from the committee that can go back to staff for a future report back to council. But if you'd like, I can just move Judith back to the attendees part.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
In here.
Okay. Jeff, do you have that resolution ready?
Vinny, can I ask a question before we get to that?
Yes.
So I'm not aware of the proposal to make this a golf course, a Frisbee golf course. Was there any documentation from the township, whether it's a 6, a 9, an 18 hole golf course, or is there anything that I can read about?
Well, I think in the package, we did get a little bit about this proposal,
Okay.
but there wasn't much. And I think there's a bit of a write-up in the paper, but I think it's at the very beginning planning stages.
Okay.
I don't think, we know how many holes it's going to be or where it's going to be, or if we could even have one. So that's all I know personally, but if James Seeley
Okay.
or Mike Fowler know any more.
I could let Mike go, but this came out of council as, for staff to look into it. So staff went away, looked at our parks, and identified that if we were to support a Frisbee golf course, they would like to see it, or maybe that's not the right terminology. The parks that were identified that could host a Frisbee golf course of some size was Fox Run and PCC. Then now it's being pushed down to the rec committee to start engaging the public a little bit and get some feedback. It's very, very new and in its infancy, and there was an article in the paper that I think fired some people up, but maybe Mr. Fowler, do you want to add anything else to that?
No, you summed it up quite well. I can just add that of the parks that were looked at, and like the delegate indicated, you really need a minimum of 5 acres to successfully have even, say, a 5 or 6 hole golf course. The Fox Run was the only park that met that criteria, where there wasn't other sporting events possibly playing, whether it be baseball or soccer. So with that being said, it was just a suggestion at the time.
Yeah.
By no means has any recommendations been put to pen. We also have identified challenges, as the delegate has also brought up, with parking. Parking is going to be a large issue, especially if you get a fair number of people that want to come out and play. So right now, the township is looking at pretty much not a lot of acreage to offer for disc golf at this moment.
Okay. Yeah, I think I feel that I wish we had more bigger parks. We'd love to have everything, but it's one of those things where we just can't have it all, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I think we should probably move on, I think. And how did you want to write this up, Jeff?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I do have a resolution here. It's a bit of a two-parter. So the first part of the request from council is that if the committee has any comments or questions related to the proposal, that they provide that tonight, and we can put that in a staff report going back to council. So that'll be the first part. And the second part is that council is looking for this committee to do some engagement through our Engage Plus Lunch platform. So that would be very similar to what we've just talked about for the community survey. At this point, we only have one member sitting on the subcommittee for our our public engagement, and that is Councillor Goida. So if there's another member of the committee who would like to sit on that subcommittee, we can refer the conversation about how to put together the survey and what those questions would look like to that subcommittee rather than having that conversation tonight. So the first part again is just looking for your comments or questions related to the proposal, and the second part is looking for a member of this committee to sit with Councillor Goida on the subcommittee.
Okay, is there anybody who has any questions or comments they'd like to put in tonight?
I'll put in a comment. I like the idea of Frisbee golf. Whether or not it's a full 9 or 18 hole golf course remains to be, is a question. An idea of, let's say, like for all the kids in the neighborhood, they could have like 3 baskets set up so they can play it, and that shouldn't affect the rest of the park. So, something like that. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the demand is for Puss Lynch to have a full 18 or whatever golf course, Frisbee golf course.
Okay, any more questions or comments?
So I wasn't finished, Vinny, but so I just don't think that park is utilized. It seems to be, from what I've heard, it seems to be an extended backyard.
Okay.
Maybe, so I don't know. That's what I've heard in the past.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Is there anything else? Did you put your hands up, Jamie?
Yeah, I'd like staff to look into some of the concerns raised with, the damage to the foliage. And I really feel that we as a committee, it'd be tough to make comments on this until the engage component is completed. Because,
Yeah.
we don't want to, well, you need to know what everybody wants in the community.
Yeah.
But also those the environmental challenges, parking, they can park on the street. I envision, a car pulling up with 4 people, they jump out and play golf for a bit. How many holes staff feel that they could fit in there without stagnating the park? What else was there? I guess that would be it. And then the engagement with the community. So I'd like to see those things come through this committee before it gets pushed back up to us at council, because we're going to need that information as well.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. And I kind of feel on Jamie's thoughts there. We obviously need some time, and we got to engage with the residents, and then we can make more of a informed decision, because it's pretty new to me. I never knew anything about it, so I started reading a little bit about it. So, it's a lot of things to consider. So, with that in mind, is there anything else before we make a motion?
Who wants to sit on the subcommittee with Jessica?
I guess the other question is, I probably should know the answer to this, but given that there is, sorry, Jeff, I think this is a question for you. Given that there is an election coming up, and at what point in time does the rec committee, when does it, I know it doesn't happen concurrently with the election, but it happens shortly after that. We may have different members on the committee. When does that take place?
Yes, so through you, Chair, the committee will continue serving until a new committee is appointed by council. So that can continue on likely into the new year. We are going to be doing our recruitment for new members starting later this fall, just following the election. But those lists of new potential members or whoever applies will be brought forward to the new council at the beginning of their term. So you'd be looking probably into December, January. Our clerk's here, so if anything has been misinterpreted by my end, I just asked Courtney to correct it, but that's my understanding.
Okay, so we have time with the current committee to orchestrate this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So is there anybody who'd like to join Jessica in this little subcommittee?
Well, sorry, but I'm not planning on running again, so I'd like to help, but there's no point. I think you need somebody that's going into the new year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might not be here either, June. It all depends.
Oh, yeah. Yes. No, I'm sure you'll get in.
But I
Bruce,
think
you
it's
need
something
to-
we could do. I think it's something we could put together within the next short little while regardless.
Okay. All
Even if
right.
you- Even
Go
if the
ahead.
members of the committee just send their comments to Jessica and she could kind of tabulate them to build the survey. I'm trying to see how easy it is for me to give you more work, Jessica. But if people are busy, even June before your exit, if you have some comments, and Bruce, I like your direction you were going. And I'll help you, Jess, if I'll sit on the committee.
Yeah, that's okay. And I think staff are very helpful too. So I'm sure we can figure it out.
Mhm.
I'd be
Jess, I
happy
can-
with,
Yeah,
I'd be
Jess,
happy
sorry,
with that there.
I can send you some of my thoughts, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I said, it's just initial right now, but it was making me think like, how can we make this park more beneficial?
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, give it some time, put some thoughts together, send them to me. I'll work with
To
staff.
the residents of Pushland, not only the people that surround it.
I think in all fairness, everybody should walk that trail and see, how close those Frisbees are gonna go to those homes and the impact on those people. Because it's not like it's a designated area kind of set off from the houses. It's like literally their backyards, extended backyards. It's no different than the little trail in Morriston. And those people, they use the property on the other side of the little trail. So I think everybody, in all fairness, before you send in your comments about Fox Run, I think you should go walk it. It's my thoughts.
That's a great
Okay.
idea. I will do it this weekend once I get back from New Jersey.
There you go.
Okay. Are we ready to hear the resolution and move it?
Okay. So through you, Chair, what I have is that the consent item 8.1, Township of Puslin Council Resolution 2022-262 be received for information, and that the Engage Puslin Subcommittee work with staff to develop and implement an Engage Puslin project regarding Frisbee golf, and that the results be provided to the appropriate staff to be reported to Council, and further, that the Recreation Committee advises Council of the following comments. One being that generally there is support of the idea of Frisbee golf, but perhaps a smaller course should be considered. There should be consideration for the demand of a full course, a review of the concerns raised by the delegate related to environmental issues, and finally, raising the question of how many holes can be accommodated within the property identified.
Okay. Do we have a mover to move that? Nope, sorry, James.
Mr. Chair. I think there was a component of Councillor Goyda's comments that maybe missed, that that the park not be stagnated by the Frisbee golf. I think that should be captured in the resolution. Feedback back to. So what I'm hearing is the resolution says the committee is somewhat supportive, but there's concerns about stagnating the park. So I guess that kind of ties into how many holes would be proposed. Jeff, is there a way you can capture that?
Absolutely. We can put something on the lines of a smaller course should be considered with respect to not stagnating the park to Frisbee golf exclusively. Does that sound right?
Some levels I'm good with it, but Jessica, sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm sorry, there was one other line in there that it said that concerns be addressed as it relates to the environment, I think it said.
Yes, so I put review concerns raised by the delegate related to environmental concerns.
Okay, I just, there was concern there too about parking, so I wasn't sure if the committee would like that to be part of that
It should be.
discussion.
Mhm. Yes, it should be.
Yeah, so I've added that in. And just for the committee's knowledge, and I think Bruce, you had asked a question about this earlier, we did receive the written delegation as well. So we do have all those points outlined that staff can be in receipt of as well. So that will be helpful.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, do we have a mover on this resolution?
I can move.
June, and a seconder?
I can
Bruce?
second.
All in favor? Okay, that's carried. All right. We'll go down to 8.2. A report on proposed user fees and charges. I looked through the package. It looks like everything's going up with the consumer price index, 7.3 to 7.8%. I think everything was slated to go up anyways. Jeff, would you like to, is there any questions on the proposed user fees and charges? I know some things are going away and some things are staying the same, and a lot of it's going up. So is there any questions on any of it?
Well, I don't have any questions. It's very self-explanatory, but I know with the rentals, so the insurance now has become an issue, and it's a lot more than when we were on the townships plan. So we could end up pricing ourselves out that we don't rent as much. So I think we have to be very careful.
I had an
Okay.
experience with that insurance as well today. Yesterday I started. What am I going to say? Staff are looking into that component. I guess there was the previous insurance provider had exclusions in the policy, and one of them was our commercial kitchen. So they switched providers, but I rent with some friends the basketball court on Mondays, and I rented it from October to April, and I had to manually enter every day and the hours to get the quote for the insurance, which I thought was very, very frustrating.
Yeah, no.
So we're looking at that, and I felt it was expensive, not expensive. I couldn't quite remember how much the previous insurer was, so I asked some questions of staff, and they're going to respond to me. But in the interim, I feel we're kind of stuck with this new system, but I'm hoping we can maybe have two different providers, go back to the old system just for the gym and the whatever other facilities that we were happy with their coverage, and then have another provider for maybe the PCC. I don't know, but definitely June, I had some challenges and frustrations with it in the last couple of days as well.
Well, sorry to interrupt you before, but so what you have to do is put in that you're a league, and you put yourself down as one team, and one team now is going to be 25 and under, and it just drops everything considerably. Because I went through that, putting in the pickleball, and the premium came back at $900. So I contacted them, and he told me what to enter, but it's not a self-explanatory. And I think people going on there for the first time, I think most people would give up.
Yeah, so we're looking at it, and we're hoping to make it a little more user friendly and cost effective.
Okay. And is that any more comments on these proposed user fees and charges? No. Jeff, could you read the resolution, please?
Yes, I do have a resolution here prepared. It is looking for any comments to be forwarded to council, similar to our last one. So if June, you're looking to put forward that comment, I can include that in. What I would have is that the consent item 8.2 report FIN 2022-029-2023 proposed user fees and charges be received, and further that the Recreation Committee advised council of the following comments. That there should be some caution of increasing insurance costs, as rentals could end up being priced out of the market. Does that sound?
Well, I think we should be cautious of how much we're putting up the rental fees, because the insurance has gone up, and we don't have any control over the insurance. But as customer service people, I think they should be able to monitor people's reactions to the new rates and just be aware. So if we have inquiries but we're not getting any bookings, then I think we certainly need to take a look at the costs.
Okay, so I've made that change,
I have a
make
quick,
that more clear.
sure, Jeff, I have a quick question for you. As part of the soccer club, we carry our own insurance through Ontario Soccer, and we provide that to the township. I'm assuming that is sufficient, and we don't have to buy this insurance? James is nodding yes, okay. I just was wondering if I missed something.
Yeah, no.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, do we have a mover for this item?
I can move.
James?
Yeah.
Seconded by June Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, item 8.3, Recreation Committee 2022 Q1 revenue and expense information. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? Obviously, I don't think much has changed on it. Do we have a mover or seconder? Any comments, concerns?
No comments, although I think I'm going to a rec meeting in October in Niagara Falls or something. I think Justin signed me up.
Yeah, and I'm signed up as well, Bruce.
Oh, are you going? Okay,
Yes,
so we're going on a date.
we could all drive down together if you want, and only
it
submit
just
one
me and
fuel
you, Vinny?
receipt. The wife wants to come too, but she paid separately, so.
Okay,
Mhm.
but no one from the township, Jeff?
I don't believe so. I don't think Mr. Fowler's going to that.
Okay,
I'll move a motion that the Director of Public Works attend the conference with the rec committee. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I'd hang out with him for the day.
He is
Good to
silent.
get out every now and again.
Didn't even get a laugh out of Mike.
Yeah.
Tough crowd.
he's got his,
All right.
he's got his mute on.
Okay, so I think we'll get back here. We just need a mover for this 8.3 here.
I'll move.
Bruce, seconded by Jessica. I think I seen her hand come up.
Yeah, that's fine.
All in favor? All right. Item 8.4, facility revenues from May the 1st to August 31st. I looked them all over. It looks like everything's starting to get used again, which is nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't think we have a comparison from last year. Obviously, there wasn't much, but everything's being used. Even the picnic shelter, the hall is being used a lot more. I feel maybe the kitchen doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of revenue, but maybe because we haven't had any functions for the kitchen, but yeah, everything else looks really good. I don't know if anybody had any questions on the revenues from May the 1st to August 31st.
The only thing I could say, Vinny, is during the summer, the PCC was rented out on Saturdays by a number of people, groups. They had barbecues out back, and there's a large number of people out back, and they were fantastic. And they even gave me free food, which was really good.
Oh,
So, and then I checked afterwards and everything was picked up. So I thought that I was very impressed with a lot of the renters over the summer. I don't know if anybody else has any feedback, but I was pretty impressed.
I think for the most part, I didn't hear of any complaints. I think, like you said, the renters have been fairly respectful, other than, there's always a couple bad apples, unfortunately. But I think maybe that $1,500 security deposit maybe shook a few people up a little bit, and you know, make them be a little bit more serious about the facilities. It should have been raised years ago, but you know, I mean, we were just so easygoing back then, I guess, but I think that's the best thing we've done so far. So if there's any comments or concerns, let me know, or we're going to ask for someone to move the report. Bruce,
Sure,
you're going to move it?
sure.
Okay, do I need a seconder? Do I have a seconder here?
I'll second.
June Williams, and all in favor? All right. Okay, we're going to move on to correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
There is none.
Okay. Committee reports, item 11.1 here. I guess everybody's seen the proposed 2023 meeting schedule. Is there any conflicts or anything that anybody can't attend? Is that a good schedule? Jessica?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest perhaps we either move the August meeting or add another meeting. The only reason I say that is because generally September, October is budget time. And I think the August 15th is a little too soon, and then November 21st is a little too late if we have, if things arise that we want to, for council to consider in terms of the budget. I think we're kind of missing the window. So I wasn't sure, not that I want to add more meetings to anyone's schedule. I just thought the timing of those like the third and the fourth meeting were maybe not aligned with what we may or may not want to achieve.
Okay. Is there any comment on that?
I agree, and I'm open to adding or changing.
And me personally, I'm okay with all the dates, and if we have to add another one or move it around, I'm okay with that too, so. All right, so could we get a motion? Jeff, did you want to read a resolution on that?
Yes, through you, Chair. I just for clarification, Councillor Guido, were you moving alternative dates, or how did you want to handle that? Sorry, with your suggestions.
Perhaps what I would suggest is to move the August 15th to maybe like a September. I don't have a calendar open in front of me. I guess it would be September, I don't know, a Tuesday in September.
Does the 19th work?
Sure. And then perhaps if there's a meeting needed in between that May and September meeting, we can just call one.
Okay.
Sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
So then in that case, Mr. Chair, what I have is that staff report rec 2022-11 regarding the proposed 2023 Recreation Committee schedule will be received for information, and further that the 2023 Recreation Committee schedule will be approved as amended, and the dates to be February 21st, 2023, May 16th, 2023, September 19th, 2023, and finally November 21st, 2023.
Okay, I'll get a mover, please.
I'll move that.
Okay, and Bruce seconded it. So
Sure.
June Williams moved it, Bruce seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, yep. Carried. Okay, 11.2, report about the Optimus Recreation Center advertising program. So I think I had asked about it, you know, because there's a lot of space in that rink to advertise, and it looks like a lot of the same companies have been in there for quite a while, and I didn't really know if we'd been collecting money from these people every year. There was a bit of a report. It looks like most of them are paying yearly. I just wonder if we could maybe, you know, get some more advertising on there for a bit more revenue around the ice rink, since there's a lot of empty spots. Jeff, do you have a resolution on this one? Anybody have any comments or concerns on it?
Could we put an ad in the Puslinch Pioneer that to advertise on the rink boards?
Well, that could definitely be a good idea, a good way to, get it out there.
I mean, there's certainly enough advertising in the Puslinch Pioneer.
Mhm.
But on the rink boards, it's in front of people all year long that use it, the market, different people that rent it, the Santa Claus parade, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, it was like a little revenue stream. I mean, it's not a big one, but it's something,
Yeah,
Yes, James?
Maybe we could ask staff to push it out through all the new social media channels first.
Yeah.
And see what the uptake is, and then if, you could have it in both, and then ask the township to look into running ads. We have some approved papers.
Mhm. Okay.
maybe
Is
put
there-
it in their tax bill.
Yeah, well, I think,
That's some attention.
yeah, well, that'll probably come, I mean, everybody gets their tax bill and I have property in other areas, and when I get their tax bill, we get a huge page of everything that's going on with council, everything that's, we get filled right in, and I know we have just one little pamphlet in ours, but, I don't know what the costs are, and that's not my department to put more in it, to catch some of these people that don't go online, or they don't go on the township website. It seems like a pretty effective way to get to people pretty quickly, 3 times a year, so.
Vinny, sorry, quick question. I'm pretty sure that we have a budget for some advertising through, I think it's through Facebook, and also I think we have that community hub through through Guelph Today. So those might be other opportunities that we're already paying for to
As
push this out.
well as, as well as Puslinch Today.
Yeah. So if we are going to put together a resolution, I think we should include all those outlets that we currently have to try and get some more advertisements around the rink. If that's okay, Jeff?
Yes, absolutely. So what we can do is, if you just give me one moment, I'll just type something up here.
You're gonna see Vinny's Mr. Fix-It on there.
I could.
Well, there you go.
Actually, the prices that you guys have for those rink advertising is really reasonable, in my opinion.
Yeah, for a whole
You know.
year.
Yeah. I was approached by the Guelph Storm, and man, oh man, you're talking $5,000 for like a little sign around the upper bowl of the rink. So, and then you've got to buy the sign yourself, and you got to pay the installation on top of that. So, for the fee that we're charging, it's a pretty good deal, in my opinion. So.
Okay, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. So what I have is that staff report rec 2022-12 regarding the Optimus Recreation Center advertising program be received for information, and further that staff be asked to use existing resources to advertisement opportunities at the Optimus Recreation Center. To be honest, I was going to add in all the different sources, but I think the direction's clear to staff as to what you'd be looking for. And Councillor Goyda did mention quite a few sources that we do have, including some funding that's already been allocated for advertising purposes. So we can address those within existing resources.
Okay, is that sufficient? Do we have a mover on this item? Jessica, seconded by Bruce. All in favor? All right. Okay, 11.3, a report on the committee quarterly reviews of goals and objectives for 2022. Is there any comments, concerns on the goals and objectives for 2022?
No.
No?
For me.
Pretty clear.
Jude, do you have anything?
No, it's all good. Everybody's done what they're supposed to.
Okay, I'll get Jeff to read the resolution, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that staff report Rec 2022-13 regarding the Recreation Committee goals and objectives for 2022 be received for information.
Okay, get a mover on that, please.
I'll move.
Jessica, seconded by Bruce, all in favor? Carried, okay. All right, item 11.4, verbal report from Mike Fowler on the Parks Master Plan.
Thanks, Vinny. So what we're looking at for the Parks Master Plan is currently we have all drawings and designs that have been presented to staff. Council will be getting an updated design in the next couple weeks, and then we anticipate tendering for these projects to go out at the end of September, early October, with hopefully commencement of construction, both for the groundworks and the tennis courts in early spring of 2023.
Right.
Okay, do you, I got a question there, Mike. Do you expect any of these tenders to come in over budget? Compared, like, you know, you're hearing of that a lot lately with any kind of tender. Do you anticipate anything to be over, coming in over budget, or do you think we're gonna be okay?
I thoroughly expect to be not within budget due to the cost of materials and lack of contractor availability. Anyone tendering during this time is basically at the mercy of whatever the industry is going to price.
Mhm. Do we have a way to make up the shortfalls? Should we be surprised?
With discussions with our consultant, they are fairly optimistic that we should be receiving some competitive bids in the late fall. This will be contractors looking for early work in 2023. So that is our hope and expectation.
Okay,
So
Anybody-
Mike, is there, oh, sorry.
I was just
Mike-
gonna ask, anybody have any questions for Mike? Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry.
June.
Okay. So Mike, is it one tender or several?
It will be, it will probably be a combination of 3 tenders, one for groundworks, one for asphalt works, and the third tender will be incorporated into our ball field and soccer lighting.
Oh, I see. Okay. So how can we see the drawings? Like, will they be public knowledge in a bit or?
So the drawings that were approved by council, I'm quite sure that we can have them posted on our website.
Oh, okay. It'd be nice to see. People have lots of questions and, oh, the rumor mill is crazy, but you know, be nice to be able to direct people where they can take a look to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Now, what site do you guys still use? Is it Bidingo for bidding? Like, where do you post these tenders?
I'm quite sure we use bids and tenders.
Okay. All right. And hopefully we don't take the lowest bid on everything.
No comment.
No problem. All right.
If I can just say a couple words, June, the drawings that were submitted to council, they're a public document. That I don't believe they've been posted per se to the township website, but I know some newspapers carried it, and it is out there. But if anybody has any questions or concerns, or they could probably just email admin@puslinch.ca, and they could, the staff could provide them either the agenda that it was included in, or just the report that Mr. Fowler prepared. So it's not, it's out there, it's available. They just need to ask. So.
Oh, well, we were all just curious on the specs of the tennis court. So what it was going to look like, you know, specifically for pickleball.
I hear they're going to put concrete nets across them so that the cables don't continue to be snapped.
So that leads me to another question. So we've had a year now of leaving the courts open for anybody to use. And now we're going to have some beautiful new courts, and I'm assuming new nets and everything else. So what is the feeling on leaving it open to the public? Like, we walk through Aberfoyle quite often. We've seen everything from kids on skateboards to people training their dogs to the other night I thought was kind of unique. There was a group of young fellas in there playing cricket. And I thought, gee, I wonder why they don't go to the baseball diamond, but maybe they, didn't realize that they could do that. But everything has been going on in that tennis court. So I'm not sure if that's the direction we want to take when we get the new tennis courts.
I was under the impression that the township was going to have a key for it. And you had to go and ask for a key, but then I guess it was left open. But has there been any damages? Maybe Mike might know.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the nets have been vandalized. It's basically aircraft cable that we use to secure the nets to the posts, and whether they've been cut or individuals have sat on it, they've broken. We spent quite a considerable amount of money this year replacing them. The reason the courts aren't locked was staff had recommended to council that we leave them open for the entire community to enjoy. I would say that it is plausible that because we do have staff till 10 p.m. at night, that they could be locked at night and reopened at 7 in the morning. But that's not to say that most of the vandalism is occurring in the dark hours. So, but it's a possibility to be looked at.
James?
Yeah, I think that's a conversation for later, but I would, maybe we need to get some surveillance camera up, and then the staff member can monitor it from the gymnasium. And when they see inappropriate use, they can go and, kick people out. I don't want to go back to a locked tennis court that people can't take their kids to go play at their leisure. So, but let's get it built first. Let's just hope it'll be on time and be ready for the spring. And we can have those conversations at a later date.
Okay. All right, is there any more discussion with Mike before we read the motion or the resolution?
Hi, Vinny. Sorry, I got cut off there.
That's okay.
So
Can't beat those short naps, can you?
yeah. Vinny, you mentioned that there was going to be 3 tenders, and the third one was going to be for baseball and soccer lighting.
Mike, could you speak to the tenders?
Yeah, the third one was the Old Morrison Ball Diamond and the new soccer pitch lighting project.
Okay, I thought that was already tendered and awarded, and everything was going to be installed in October, November.
That's correct, Bruce. But the question was, how many tenders were involved in the Parks Master Plan? The lighting tender has been awarded,
Yeah.
schedules have been put out, and we anticipate a start date late October once we get final layout approvals from Hydro One.
Okay, so what is this new tender going to be for?
There isn't a new tender. The ball diamond lighting was the first tender to go out. The existing other 2 are for groundworks and the asphalt works for the Parks Master Plan.
Okay, so the third one is already done.
Correct.
Oh, okay, sorry, I got confused there. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments before we get the resolution? Okay, can we get the resolution? Jeff, if you're ready.
I am, so through you, Mr. Chair, that the verbal report on the Parks Master Plan update be received as information.
Okay, thank you. Is there a mover on that?
I'll move.
Okay, June Williams, seconded by
I can second.
Bruce, all in favor? Carried. Okay, item 11.5, verbal report, Boreham Park update. I think this is the one that I had to speak on. Myself, and I think June Williams was there as well. We attended a meeting in the neighborhood here at Boreham Park. Bruce Taylor, and they have a committee of, they're called the Concerned Residents of Puthlinch. They have a couple of items that they've sent me and wanted to just read to everybody on the committee. I think it's going to be received as information. And I mean, they couldn't get in quick enough to be a delegate, but we can probably get them in later down the road. So at this meeting, they talked about a number of different things here, and I'm just going to read what they sent me to read. So they have a couple of concerns. First one is communications. Over 20 people in the Boreham Park that were interviewed in that area, only one knew of Engage Puthlinch. That person submitted a suggestion for Boreham Park. Another person learned from the first but missed the deadline. Engage Puthlinch, when we checked after it closed, showed 28 submitted suggestions online, but only 7 focused on Boreham Park. Most focused on the Puthlinch Community Center and the Optimus Rec Center in Aberfoyle. The solution, yes, you can invite suggestions on a website and check off that the public has been consulted. But as was confirmed at the meeting, with all respect, most people do not regularly check the township website or watch council meetings. We're pretty busy folks. The attendance at the meeting proved that the website method was insufficient. It should be combined, however, with the method that has worked for years, or sort of. If it is not broken, don't fix it. We post applications for severance signs on site. The same should have been done about the park, on site at the park. What's most important is what works, not what is the latest technology. A poster on any one or all of Boreham Park, the Arco United Church notice board, a couple community mailboxes, and/or delivered by children and adults in Arco, and even beyond works, and it is why we attracted approximately 40 people at the meeting. Our recommendation is to use both methods, website and personal, and not only the first. So a park use study. So everybody that came out, they basically said they're all pro park. They love the park. They enjoy the sounds of the children, the dogs chasing each other. Bruce Taylor himself said that he is 70 and he needs to be entertained, so he loves the park. He even watered 2 of the trees that were in the park, but it was too late that the township planted, but did not water them because there's no water source in the park. So they did die and were cut off at the base by the township. One was near the new sign and the other one by the play area. So the group talked with other municipalities and they learned that the first step to park development or improvements to a park is to do a park use study. Why is that? To make park use commensurate with money invested. For such a small park, a study would not have been needed to involve consultants. We as neighbors around the park could have told, and with accuracy, which ages use the park and approximately how many persons per week. For example, how many children, teenagers, and adults with dogs. We were home during COVID. We know the park intimately, especially its use. In general, it's a local and little used park, and as Oliver said, a tad boring. A couple picnic tables and new equipment aren't going to change the park. So they did a little survey of, a survey of neighbors would have been sufficient in order to consider actual use and projected use with improvements. To our knowledge, this more like a survey was never done. No one canvassed the neighbors near the park and asked about its current use, even though the Pusslich Parks and Recreation Master Plan of 2015, it states in the summary appendix under Boreham Park, quoted, could support additional facilities but must remain cognizant of adjacent properties. I only learned that when I studied the 130-page master plan a week ago. I wondered if council was aware of the part of the plan, and if so, why we are on adjacent properties were not consulted. Story about the train, guys. It only makes sense. It's a 2.1 acre small park between two homes. So there's neighbors beside him and himself on the adjacent properties were never consulted. Is it too late for us to be consulted? It's never too late. Will we be consulted? We'll see. As you know, some municipalities invest a potload of money into parks. Milton's Moffat Park is an example. I've visited it twice recently and it's beautiful. But one evening, one person was there and the other evening, nobody was there. Note from my reading of the master plan, the only mentions of Boreham Park are one on page 27, where it simply describes what is in the park, for example, swings and a slide, but it makes no recommendation for the future. Two, the quote above the summary appendix about how, in quotations, any additional facilities must remain cognizant of adjacent properties. And three, the importance of compliance with the AODA accessibility built environmental standards and the Wellington Facility Accessibility Design Manual, whichever is more stringent, page 11. And four, repeated recommendations for building and fostering relationships with the community partners. On pages 40, 41, 48, 49, 97, 100, and 102, it is inaccurate to say it is a master plan for Boreham Park for the period of 2015 to 2025. It makes no recommendation for improvements to Boreham Park. Also, as John Cephalus said to me at the neighborhood meeting, the township needs a new plan. Close that door. So number 3 on his paperwork here, AODA, which is Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities. So the new word, of course, is abilities, not disabilities. He won't summarize the accessibility standard, but from his reading and rereading of their total website and a question and answer section and talking with an AODA officials, we are walking on thin ice. If we think we are in compliance with AODA by improving the equipment on a playground area with swales or ditches of 6 to 8 feet deep and 20 to 30 feet across, and on 3 out of the 4 sides of the playground area and over 1,000 feet in total in the park, we may find out that we are very mistaken. Personally, I don't see how the current playground area is surrounded within a few feet by deep ditches on 3 out of 4 sides is compliant with AODA accessibility standards, especially considering their definition of barriers, which is barriers means anything that prevents a person with a disability from fully participating in all aspects of society because of his or her disability, including a physical barrier or an architectural barrier, end of quotation. One of the key 4 principles of the AODA is equal opportunity. AODA is concerned with safety. 6 to 8 foot deep swales or ditches are not safe for children. It's a fact. As we said at the meeting, the area was designed for stormwater conveyance, retention, and dispersal. Other familiar former stormwater parks like Milton's Brookville on the Guelph line have installed proper underground drainage pipes in order to provide a safe landscape. Also, a parks designer shared with me recently on the latest research on abilities in parks. He said the research presented in his latest workshop that he attended showed that abilities often have more to do with children's sensory issues than physical issues. He cited that the research showed that children in parks need quieter spaces away from cars and roads and traffic. So the committee's recommendation is that the AODA be asked to sign off on the total park and any further improvements to the playground area as to whether they are compliant with AODA standards. We assume the township wants to be compliant with the law. The question especially is the playground area compliant with AODA standards or not? If not, what changes would have to occur for it to be compliant? To make that decision, the AODA either should be provided with photos and the description of the park or be invited to make an on-site inspection. Whatever their answer is, we should ask ourselves also if the park reflects equal opportunity for all abilities and use common sense as our guide. For anyone in a Pusson's position, I would not trust the citizens' interpretation of the accessibility standards, for example, my interpretation, nor would I trust, with all respect, of park designers nor an elected officials. We are not AODA experts. I only would trust the AODA to state whether the current playground area is in compliance with the AODA, especially before I invested more local or provincial taxpayers' money in it. I would not risk situating a pavilion and a new play equipment on a site that the AODA says is not compliant with the AODA, which is the law, or on a site that an engineer might say we can solve by installing underground drainage pipe under the playground area. Now, but not later. In other words, horse before the cart. Again, I don't believe the playground area or even the park for that matter is compliant with AODA, and given all the buildings and open spaces that must be compliant on or before 2025, I again believe we are walking on thin ice. You only have to think of, if you were building a house, what would come first? Drainage, not the new furniture. So right now, we're at 44 families, and this committee, or this concerned citizens of Pussonach, and now they're at 58. I also had they did a little survey as well. So it says, I'm writing on behalf of Bruce and our 4-member committee. In addition to the letter, please feel free to share and read the following points. This data was collected from the Concerned Citizens of Pussonach Park Committee survey. In total, 31 people or families responded from the local area. 67% of respondents were unaware of a design plan for the park was approved by council prior to reading it in the Wellington Advertiser. 69% agree that a park master plan with possible improvements for the park should be done. 53% agree that the master plan should include filling in the drainage ditches, sloping and draining the area. 79% agree that the park should be accessible or compliant with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. Various suggestions for the park included 2 people suggested modifying the basketball court to a multi-use surface for pickleball or tennis. 3 people suggested making the park walkable and making it accessible for strollers or wheelchairs. 1 person suggested a fenced area for dogs, and 1 suggested a small parking area. In summary, the general consensus we have gathered through word of mouth and the survey is that local residents are grateful for the proposed improved playground equipment. No one wants to slow down the installation progress through grandiose or costly measures. One lower cost solution might be to install culverts around the playground to connect it to the parking and basketball court, in addition to a small culvert / bridge on the northwest end of the park would improve walkability and accessibility for all users. Yeah, so that was the materials they've left me to read. We're probably not going to debate on any of it tonight, because I don't think that's our position, but I think what we'll do is we'll just get a, does anybody have any questions on it? I think, Jessica, were you at the meeting as well?
Yes, I was at the meeting. It was well attended. There was some good feedback there for sure. And thanks, Vinny, for relaying the information to the rest of the committee. I do just want to make one comment. I think when we're talking about the play structure itself,
Right.
and if you do look at the parks master plan on page 81, it says observations of existing township playgrounds suggest that there is potential to upgrade Borum Park to modern and creative play equipment. And so that is, in essence, what we've done. A plan for the rest of the park was not part of the discussion when we were looking at the play structure itself, but that doesn't mean that it can't be in the future. And I think if there is a strong desire from the community to see additional features implemented into the park, and Vinny, you were there, one of the recommendations that John and I had given was that that group come and delegate to council and put together a proposal that can go through the regular budget process. And I think that that is the correct process. That would be the right way to go in terms of considering, you know, what should be the master plan, what kinds of things should go in there. And I think those are all things that by upgrading the playground, it doesn't mean the rest of those things can't also happen.
Okay, is there any other comments? James?
Thanks, Vinny. It's more directed towards you. You know, it's great that you brought those comments forward, but if you don't provide them to the committee ahead of time, they're not able to digest all that information from you just reading for minutes upon minutes upon minutes. So in the future, if Mr. Taylor wants to submit lengthy comments like that, I think the recommendation should be, as what we saw earlier tonight, was a delegation, or at the very least, provide those comments on the agenda so the members have the opportunity to read them, digest them, get some answers from staff. There's a lot of accusations in there. Township staff didn't plant those trees. I did. I watered them for the first year, and I hope that they would survive, but we've had unusual, well, I mean, droughts seem to be more the norm nowadays, but so it wasn't any deficiency on staff not watering the trees that they planted. I got some green legacy maples and I planted half a dozen of them around the township, and just to, and it's for future generations to have shade. Again, it's unfortunate. I think I'm gonna ask Mr. Fowler just to speak of the necessity of the drainage ditches. They're not aesthetic. They serve a purpose, is my understanding. And I just want him to, for the committee's indulgence, explain why they're required. And I don't even know if he wants to guess. I mean, we could get rid of those ditches. You can bury a pipe anywhere you want for the most part, but it comes with a significant cost. So Mr. Fowler, if you could just explain to the committee what purpose though that ditching provides in Borum.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in regards to the ditch, the reason it was established and continues to be put in use is it basically drains the northeast corner of the park. It also takes the runoff from both adjacent fields to the west and also to the north. So when we do have heavy bouts of participation, all that water will flow from those fields down through that ditch and then cross the road under Borum Drive. There, as far as filling them in, anything like you stated, anything's a possibility. It will have to be engineered. It will be kind of tricky to have a right angle turn on an buried pipe without fear of clogging or improper flow is basically the township's concern. So back when Borum Drive was first established, that wasn't identified as an area for a park. It would have been a continuation with a cul-de-sac at the end with 2 more houses placed where the park currently is. Obviously, the developer, instead of paying parkland dedication fees, donated the land, and it was just established as a park. And that's why the ditching is established as the way it is today.
Okay. Bruce?
I guess this question is for Mr. Fowler. The presenter, or the person, Mr. Taylor, talked about AOADA stuff. Are all of our parks subject to that? And are we compliant, or is that, I really don't know.
Majority of our parks are not designed to be accessible.
Okay,
That is what the township is currently in the process of doing, is rehabilitating both the PCC and the identified Borum Drive to be AOD compatible.
okay.
Okay. All right.
So I just want to maybe comment on that. Mr. Fowler, are we mandated to rehab the parks, or only once we rehab them, we have to bring them up to AODA standards? What is it? Accessibility Ontario Disabilities Act, I believe is what it means.
I would have to double check, but my interpretation is that it be identified as completely accessible once you either rehab or build a new structure.
So, Mr. Fowler, would this include the Badenoch Park and the park that we were talking about earlier tonight?
Fox Run.
Yeah, Fox Run.
Yes, so Fox Run, it is accessibility compatible. It is
Okay.
designed with minimum percentage of slope on the trail, and also like a stone dust hard surface that is compatible for like wheelchairs.
Okay, good.
Jessica?
Sorry, I just have one other question that I'm not sure if this may be for Mike. One of the you'll all remember the Engage Plus Lunch. We did run that young playground planner engagement piece, and as part of that, there was an opportunity for residents, specifically young residents, to submit their ideas for the park. Do you happen to know, Mike, how those design ideas or submissions are being incorporated into the playground design?
Sure. So what was identified for the Bourne Park area, there was no mention of any potential fall hazards regarding ditching. There was a request for a long twisty slide, which has been incorporated into the new design. There was the ask of saving the large, I believe it's a walnut tree in the green space. And they asked for also kind of dexterity type play equipment that would range between the age of 5 and 10. And they've all been incorporated in this current design that's been proposed.
Okay, good to hear.
Okay. Is there any more comments before we read the resolution? Okay, Jeff, if you got a little resolution to for this item, go ahead if you're ready.
Okay, so through you, Chair, that the verbal report on Borum Park update be received as information.
Okay, we get a mover on this.
Move.
Okay, and anybody second? Bruce,
Second.
all in favor? All right, we almost see the end here, folks. Item 12 here, new business. Is there any new business?
I have one.
Jessica?
Sorry. I was speaking with June Williams just last week, and it just came up in casual conversation. She had mentioned to me that for the past several years, she has been marking the lines for pickleball with painter's tape herself every 2 weeks at the gym. And that's quite the commitment to be doing that every 2 weeks. And I was just wondering if what the rec committee would think of if the next time that the floors are to be refinished, which may not be for some time, but we just put it in the sort of the file to have those lines painted on the next time the floor is up for refinishing, just so June doesn't have to be doing that for eternity.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Good, a straight line.
Thank you. You know what? I know that this pickleball thing is getting very popular. So personally, I wouldn't have a problem if that was incorporated into the permanent lines in the gym. But if there's anybody that's opposed to that, I don't think there is anybody.
Maybe
Great
Mr.
idea.
Fowler could speak to it if it's already being planned or not, or what process, if we need to budget for it.
Mike, did you have any comments?
Just the fact that it was probably about 6 years ago, we had both the ORC and the PCC floors finished. Judging by our asset management, we tend to do it every 10 years. So we're getting close to 8 years. We can, if it's the wish of council, we can push it ahead a bit. You need to be aware that this process to refinish the floors becomes a challenge, especially with our uptick in rentals, that both facilities will be down for up to a week with no entry at all due to the curing time and also the odor.
Is there any way you could do a temporary lines on the floor that would last some time?
We can look into it, but I don't think they'll last too long if both pickleball and say basketball and other like birthday parties are using the gym facility, that it tends to get nicked up pretty quick. We need that kind of urethane coating on it to protect it.
Okay.
I might also add, Vinny, that I would think that if there is painter's tape or duct tape on there and it's supposed to last a little bit longer and it starts to rip up, that could be a tripping hazard for basketball or volleyball.
That's understandable.
What I
Okay,
will say, Vinny, is that the new tennis courts are proposed to have pickleball lines permanently painted once they're completed.
and they're gonna be heated too, right, for winter play?
Oh yeah, that'll be the next proposal, Vinny. I want to go with a dome.
There you
Okay.
go. We're on it.
All right. Okay, is there any more new business? Okay, we'll move on to announcements. Do we have any surprise announcements? No?
I think June has one.
What's that?
You say you're not coming back?
Oh, I told the committee a little while ago, I think at
Okay.
previous meeting. Yeah.
So my question to you, June, is what could we do to persuade you to stay?
No. Many. You know what? I'm sure there's got to be some new people with new ideas. I mean, I've really enjoyed my time here, but you know, I think there's got to be some other people out there that should have some input.
Well, thank you for your service to this committee, June.
Yeah,
you.
thank you. We've really been great having you, and you haven't missed very many meetings, and that's really awesome. You know, it's hard to find people with the commitment, so it's been great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vinny,
Thank you.
Vinny, I have a question.
Yes.
What is the status of replacing the two departed rec committee members? Like, is there a process in place?
So that would be Jeff that could probably answer that. He did touch on a little bit that they'll be doing recruitment again in the fall for next year's term. But Jeff,
Okay.
did you have any comments on that?
Yes, through Mr. Chair, exactly that. Given that the time period between the departures was so short. I think it was only a 2-meeting difference between the end of this term and the start of potentially the new one. It was decided that there wouldn't be the value in advertising to get somebody up for speed, only to have them reapply again in a matter of 3 or 4 months. So that's why we decided not to go forward with new members at this time, and then just re-advertise and go through the full recruitment process when the new council's elected.
So for me being, well, I guess I'm not really a new member, but do I just stay on this committee or do I have to reapply?
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's a good question. I haven't been at the township long enough to do a recruitment process for committees. I imagine there'll be some sort of an expression of interest that we would request existing members to submit to the township, just indicating to council that they wish to stay on, update any of their resume information, any kind of information that you were provided in the past, just to confirm that it's all still current, and we would provide that information to council for their review and consideration.
Okay. It feels like I've been doing it for a long time, but I think it's only been 3 years. I don't know what the term is. I guess the term is basically the current council term. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other announcements? All right, we'll move on to the most important item in the meeting, item 14. A motion to adjourn the meeting.
There we go.
It looks like everybody's hand went up. Did yours go up first, June? Seconded by Bruce, and James was already saying all in favor. All right, thank you very much, guys and gals. And our next meeting is February 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Thank you again and have a wonderful night.
You
Great night.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.